All right, let's talk about what's brewing in the Atlantic right now. It is a really fascinating and honestly a pretty tricky situation. We've got two developing tropical systems that are on a potential collision course, and it's creating one of the most complex and uncertain forecasts we have seen all season. So let's try to crack this code. This right here is the central question. It's what meteorologists are wrestling with as we speak. And believe me, there is no simple answer. This whole thing is turning into a genuine atmospheric mystery. So let's meet the main players in this drama. So we're tracking two areas of interest. Forecasters call them invests. First up, you've got Invest 93. It's way out there in the Atlantic, but it has a whopping 90% chance of developing. Then a lot closer to the Caribbean, there's Invest 94, which still has a pretty significant 60% chance. Now, how these two systems evolve, and more importantly, how they interact, that's the key to everything that's about to happen. Okay, before we dive into that long-range mystery, there's one thing that forecasters are very, very confident about for the immediate future, and that is a whole lot of rain for the Caribbean. And when I say a lot of rain, I mean it. The sheer volume of water we're talking about is staggering. The American forecast model is projecting that some localized spots in Puerto Rico could see totals over 7 inches. That is a dangerous amount of rain to get in a really short period of time. So the most important point for the next, say, 3 days is the high risk of flooding. This heavy rainfall from Invest 94 is going to impact Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and parts of the Dominican Republic. And look, while the storm's future intensity is still up for debate, this rain is a near certainty. And this is where the story really splits. Once we look past the next 72 hours, the world's best weather models start telling two completely different stories about what these storms are going to do. It's like a tale of two futures. So let's start with the first major possibility. This one comes from the American GFS model, and it's predicting something pretty dramatic. A merger, where these two systems get so close that one basically consumes the other. So in this version of what could happen, the two disturbances get kind of tangled up in this dance just northeast of the Bahamas. Invest 93, being the stronger system, would eventually just absorb the weaker Invest 94. And out of this merger, a single, much larger cyclone would emerge, and it would start tracking towards Bermuda early next week. But, that's just one version of the future. The highly respected European model, it's painting a very different picture. It's one where the storms actually keep their distance and end up charting their own independent and pretty dangerous paths. In this scenario, the storms never get close enough to merge at all. Instead, they each go their own way. Invest 94 could become a hurricane threatening the Bahamas, while Invest 93 spins up into a major hurricane farther out at sea. In the really scary result here, Bermuda could face a threat from both systems, 2 storms instead of just one. So here's the divide in a nutshell. You've got the American model, which is pretty much standing alone in predicting this merger. But then you have nearly every other major model, the European, the German, the UK, and they're all forecasting a 2-storm scenario. This fundamental disagreement is really at the heart of the whole forecast challenge. And that really is the bottom line. Which one of these scenarios actually plays out? That is the single biggest question right now. How or even if these two systems interact over the weekend, that is going to determine who needs to be on high alert next week. So, with two totally different futures on the table, what's the takeaway? Well, it's really all about understanding the science behind this uncertainty and knowing who needs to be paying very close attention. This phenomenon we're talking about actually has a name. It's called the Fujiwara effect. It's basically what happens when two storms get close enough to start this weird dance around each other. This interaction can completely change their paths and their strength in ways that are incredibly difficult to predict, which is exactly why the models are struggling so much. So what does all this uncertainty mean for people on the ground? Well, given the huge range of possibilities, a pretty wide area needs to stay vigilant. Basically, anyone in the Bahamas, Bermuda, and all along the U.S. East Coast, from Florida all the way up to North Carolina, should be monitoring this forecast very, very closely as the situation develops. And this kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? We have all this incredible technology, but nature can still present these puzzles that challenge our absolute best tools. This forecast is just a powerful reminder that the best response to uncertainty isn't anxiety, it's awareness and preparation. So stay informed and stay ready.